We love Doctor Who and you should too. Today we're going to be talking more about Davros, as he's obviously in the first episode of Season 9. In the opening episode of Season 9, which started off with one heck of a bang, we were shown that the Doctor is talking to a child with a strange hand-like creature peering up at him. The Doctor finally asked the child for his name, and we found out that it was his arch-nemesis, Davros, as a child. Who is Davros? We know that he created the Daleks, but what else do we know about him? I'm gonna butcher a lot of these names, but Davros had the unfortunate event of being born during the 1,000-year war between the Kalids and the Thals on Skaro. His mother was Lady Kakula, and his father was Councillor Quested. However, Davros believed his father to be a colonial Nazgard because his mother had an affair with Councillor Quested and didn't tell him. During his childhood, he became lost in one of the many battlefields, and he ended up surrounded by the hand mines, which would drag someone into the earth. He was calling for help when the 12th Doctor showed up and threw him his screwdriver to talk to him. But once the Doctor found out that he was talking to a young Davros, the Doctor ran for it, not wanting to save Davros, but also not wanting to be the one to kill him. This part of his history may change depending on what happens in the next episode. Colonel Nazgard wanted Davros to become a soldier when he was old enough. Davros, however, wanted to be a scientist. But when his stepfather died, he did end up joining the military youth and then the military corps in his final years of college. He was put in charge of developing new weapons and gadgets to help the Kalid soldiers in the war. His mother, though, ended up killing his father, sister, and aunt. And Davros ended up using his sister's body for genetic research that would start the man that he would become. Davros did end up joining the scientific corps eventually. His lab ended up being in a Thal bombardment and he was badly wounded. He lost his eyes, taste buds, left arm, and his entire lower body, and he ended up in a mobile life support system that looks very similar to the lower half of a Dalek. Later on in his life, he ended up killing the Supremo and the other members of the Council of 12, leaving him the Kalid head of state. He then began experimenting on organisms and teaching them how to speak. Once he became the highest member of the scientific elite, he started the creation of the Daleks. One flaw in Davros' plan was the programming he himself put in place, and the Daleks eventually turned on him for not being pure. He begged for pity, but the Daleks did not feel any pity thanks to what he did to them, and they attacked him. Luckily for Davros, they only managed to damage his life support system, and the backup kicked on and kept him alive. The Daleks then ended up reviving Davros later on realizing that they needed his help. Unfortunately, the Daleks and Davros' plans failed and the 4th Doctor captured Davros and imprisoned him in a block of ice. After 90 years, the Daleks revived Davros from his prison, hoping that he could once again help them. This time it was to find a cure for a virus that was killing them. He pretended to find a cure, but he was really experimenting on the Daleks to get them under his control again. This failed, and he ended up releasing the virus onto the ship, killing all of the Daleks on board, and then he managed to escape. He ended up being picked up by a space station and then imprisoned, but he was extracted from his prison and then got help with the sickness that he unleashed onto the Daleks. The 6th Doctor ended up arriving and demanded that Davros be placed back into suspended animation. Davros was fully conscious at this point though, and he told the Doctor to do it himself. And the Doctor failed, believing that he deserved a chance at redemption. Of course, being Davros and being pure evil, he agreed to take his chance at redemption, and then he betrayed everyone. He went on to escape on a different ship, and the Doctor managed to take control of it from the control room, and he made the ship crash. Davros somehow managed to survive again! This time he started to create a new race of Daleks from the bodies of the dead. They became the Imperial Daleks that were totally loyal to him. The Supreme Daleks then arrived and captured him to put him back on trial. Upon arriving on Skaro, he found that the Supreme Daleks created a new casing, and they planned to move it after Davros' execution. However, Davros managed to gain the loyalty of these Daleks by telling them about the virus that had destroyed so many of their kind, and they weren't even realizing it. He then told them about a spy on Thal when he met Lauren, who was on Skaro, and he ordered them to exterminate her. Impressed by his loyalty, they made him the Emperor of the Daleks. Now he was encased in an Imperial Dalek-looking shell, but his head and upper body still at least partially looked like a Kalid. He then went to Earth to try and recover the Hand of Omega. He, however, was killed again when his ship was destroyed by the Hand of Omega, but he managed to escape using an escape pod once again. After this, there are 3 accounts as to what happened to him. One of these is that he was put on trial by the Dalek Prime, but there were still supporters of Davros in the Dalek race, and they turned on the Dalek Prime and a civil war broke out. Another is that he was alone in space and created a virus capable of killing all things, but the Doctor ended up stopping him and the Daleks, and Davros left Earth. The final one is that his escape pod crash landed and he attempted to make contact with the Daleks in the universe. The Doctor again managed to stop him, but Davros escaped using a Dalek time machine. Whatever account you take as the real main thing, take it from here as he managed to survive again. Maybe all three happened, I don't know. During the Great Time War between the Daleks and the Time Lords, Davros ended up being a commander for the Daleks. His ship ended up flying into the jaws of the Nightmare Child, a being born of war, and Dalek Khan ended up saving Davros from death. Davros then went on to create a new race of Daleks, this time from the cells of his own body. The new Daleks, however, did not see him as their leader and they elected a Supreme Dalek. But this time they did keep him alive, so in return he helped them steal 27 planets. Davros then managed to bring in the 10th Doctor and meet him face to face, and the Daleks and Davros wanted to detonate their reality bomb. But the Doctor ended up stopping them with Dr. Donna. The Doctor then offered to save Davros, but Davros stayed aboard the exploding ship. And that brings us to the newest episode, with Davros managing to survive once again. What will become of Davros now that he's in his final day of life? What new threats is he going to bring to the table? Will he be around all season, or are we just going to see him disappear next episode? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time right here at CTV.